This call is being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, please disconnect at this time.
It was funny yesterday, Laura and I did a private call between us, and we were recording it so that we'd have all the information. And when the message was done, she's like, "Don't hang up, please don't hang up, please don't hang up." And it just made me laugh so much because it didn't even occur to me to hang up, but the joke was so funny to me. Okay, so welcome to today's call, and our topic today is there's no chance you were doing to me what I think you were doing. We touched on this yesterday quite a bit, but we're going to go a little bit more into this concept because it really reflects that we have this level of control and that it's internal, even though we're using external mirrors to decide this control. And what we would realize is that we're this beautiful gift to others. Whether we move our energy through just our truth or we move it through resentment or stubborn behavior, we're still this beautiful gift to those around us because we're attracting people who need to be involved with our experience. And it's important to know that when we're moving through these layers of ourselves, that the first person we're influencing is us. So we're creating this feeling of uneasiness before it ever reaches anyone else. So we may walk in, so for instance, you guys might have had this experience where you walk into a room, you were just fine, but you walk into this room and then suddenly it's like, there's misery here, this is so heavy, and you instantly change your outward appearance to others. So for instance, you might have been smiling and singing a song in your head, and then when you walk into this room with this heavy energy, you just kind of drop down and you go more solemn, you match up with what's going on. And I remember thinking, after I realized that we don't create other people's realities, I remember thinking, well, what if I go to a funeral and there's this way to behave? Because we all expect to be solemn and quiet at funerals. I've never been to one that wasn't that way. I'm sure other people have, set parameters where they have a different kind of experience, but every one I've ever attended has been solemn and very mournful. And I thought to myself, what if I'm having a really good day and I go to a funeral and I don't feel like participating in their belief that this is to be sad? What if I go in and I just say, hey, everybody, how you doing? And it really woke me up to how we've created this belief about respecting the space of others and mirroring their behavior. So that's why it's important to realize that when we're going through the layers of ourselves, we're creating a space for others to mirror back to us. And if we can see, when we see something in someone else and we say, oh, okay, am I participating in this? Am I seeing this in them because it's actually something they're picking up from me? It's not where we're going to end our lives or anything. It's just something to start thinking about, because over the next month we'll be touching on, how am I impacting my outside world? Where am I creating things that I don't want to participate in? So we move on from that to the idea that now that we've created this experience, there's a level of self-destruction that is acceptable in humanity. So we walk into a place where everyone's despondent and unhappy, and we all participate in it, and it's acceptable to have this kind of impact on our world. It's mind-boggling at times when you see some of these things that happen, and I believe this even when we go as far as genocide. There's a post I saw today remembering genocide of the Romanian culture from 1915, and I thought, wow, look how everybody had to go along with this, because at any moment, if everybody in a room stops this behavior, then anything can change. So it's incredible how the mass consciousness can grow and grow and grow, and we stay in these traps. Now, from there, at any moment, we can decide that this is not what's happening. And this is why today's exercise is as a mantra for the mind. When we create a mantra, it gives a control to what we're doing. Mantras specifically involve your breath. They involve a repetition that doesn't allow your subconscious to look for any new information. So for me, what I was talking about yesterday is I would just say over and over, there's no chance you're doing to me what I think you're doing. That became my mantra for those moments because I was wise enough now and had seen it often enough that I knew that the person was reflecting something back to me, but that I was involved in it, that they weren't trying to harm me in any way. So I had to start backing up. And what you find is when you have a method for understanding your experiences, it can be very easy to back up. So, for instance, I started contemplating every night before I went to bed, what happened in my day? How did I experience it? What did I believe that I saw in others? And what's actually true? What can I prove was real? And what is it my assumption? So I started then separating what was just this big lump of a day into pieces of awareness. And from these pieces of awareness, I could see puzzles that I was blind to because my focus before was so narrowed. So as we expand and broaden our focus and lessen the attention we put on one thing or another, we can see something larger. And Sequoia and I were talking before the call, and it's very relevant to what I just said. We had done a conversation and recorded it, and Sequoia was listening to it again. And Sequoia, would you agree that in the moment, our focus is narrowed and we don't actually hear everything that's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, because you're trying to absorb so much information at once, and that parts of it are missed out. And it's only on re-listening that you can start to absorb the other parts.
So in a similar way, that's what contemplation does for us. And we get in our busy lives and we've released the method of contemplation. It used to be very normal for people to have time in their day to contemplate, and therefore they would pick up those other pieces and really have an awareness of their entire experience. But now we leave one experience, we jump right into another, we rush off to this event, we get buried in traffic and different things that cause stress. And when you're in stress, contemplation is much more difficult. So this is another reason we want people to practice breathing, because right now in that moment, you would have, so for instance, I'm driving in traffic, and if I'm feeling stressed or worried that I'm going to be late, I have a choice, because I'm not changing the traffic, but I can change me. So I can go into my breath work, and I can relax, and I can connect to, what it is that I've just left, instead of worrying about what it is I'm going to, or I can connect to that as well, but I can use a form of contemplation and relaxation, and it gives me a level of awareness that I didn't have before. Now, why does awareness matter? So with awareness, we start to realize in each moment what is happening versus just looking back. Because we all know that phrase, hindsight is crystal clear. And I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense that I have to wait till I've had an experience to fully understand it. Why do I have to figure it out 5 years later that, this person was actually loving me and I just thought they were trying to control me? Why do I have to struggle all the time? So instead of waiting for hindsight, we start connecting part of ourselves that exists when we're in this more peaceful awareness state. And then in each moment, we can be fully aware. That's the full forming of the third eye, where both the mind and the brain are working together, and the subconscious is in there supporting with pictures and ideas, and then the mind and the brain are melding and fully aware. And that's an amazing thing. So through contemplation, you can develop a level of third eye awareness by being fully aware of what truly happened in a moment versus what we assumed, what we were afraid of. Any part of fear or judgment or conclusions that took us out of that moment, we can go back and we can fully form the experience. Once you're aware and you're able to be conscious in each moment, then when something happens, that subconscious is already used to giving you the next piece in a healthier way than just the templates in your system that kind of push you through your day without any awareness of what's going on. So then in a moment, you're going to realize, I recognize this. I thought about this last night, and I realized I didn't like this experience, and I recognize having this, and I'm seeing myself do it again. Right there, that's the first step, awareness. In that moment, you may not be prepared to make a change, but awareness is key to the next part. So we've already talked about when we're working with our perception, if we feel anything that's uncomfortable, that we don't understand or don't want, we can stop. We can stop and we can start again. We can, take a break. We can do anything other than pushing into this uncomfortableness without understanding. So with awareness, you can now stop and make a different choice. And what you're going to find, this is such an interesting part of how the brain works. You're going to find that because you've created this awareness, that you're going to start having these really big deja vus. So we have a process that we live out in the universal conscious mind. And for anyone that doesn't know what the universal conscious mind is, it's all of us together in our awareness. And we interact with each other outside of body in this level of awareness, having communication, setting up plans. Hey, it's part of the law of attraction. I need to have this experience. Is there anyone in my sphere of influence that would like to be involved in this experience with me? And then yes. And so a few days later, we arrive at this moment, and suddenly we have this great experience and this encounter. We're like, wow, that's amazing. But we don't even know that we've already set this up, that we're part of the creation of all of these experiences. Now, when you work through contemplation and you've come to a level of awareness, you start to see, oh, I remember this conversation in the universal conscious mind. I remember that I had a choice. And I remember that when I didn't follow my truth, I didn't like the outcome. Because we set ourselves up for these experiences to bring ourselves back to our truth. So I've been able to then recognize, oh, wait a minute, this is a huge deja vu. I've done this before. Okay, I know I didn't like the outcome. I'm going to stop what I'm doing right now. And I remember the first time that happened with an argument with my partner. He'd come in late, and there wasn't a misunderstanding, but I didn't know there was a misunderstanding yet. He'd come in late, and I was very upset about a set of circumstances, and I was ready to yell at him. And as soon as I took that breath and that rage roared into my chest, I was like, I remember this moment. And I was like, I'm not doing this. And he looked at me, and he's ready for a fight because he knows I'm upset. And I said, I'm going to sit down, and I'm just going to be quiet. And it went away. That rage went away. And I calmed down, and I said, okay, so this is what I think happened, but I know it can't be true because I know who you are, and I know you're a loving person, and I know you wouldn't have done this to me. So I'm not sure what I'm afraid of, but can you just help me right now? So I was able to stop in the moment, and this is what we keep doing then. And why does this matter? Why can't we just stop later, and still have this change in our lives? It's because of the chemical bonding of energy to the human cells and our hormones and our lymph system and our blood. There's a bond between the energy and our body based on what we create. In each moment, when we go into fear, those bonds just start firing. Everything starts happening. It's like a car that runs without you driving it. So now you're a passenger in your own body. Your body is in autopilot. And the only way to stop the autopilot is in the moment because the habit is already ingrained. And you can only break a habit by stopping the habit. I can remember another friend who had a Miata, and she was part of a club. And she was driving this Miata, and she was tired of being part of this club. And I told her, well, then just don't do it. And she just couldn't bring herself to stop participating in this club because of the way other people would look at her and how she felt about, not continuing something. But she'd been involved for 2 years. I mean, she just didn't believe what they believed anymore. Instead of just stopping her behavior and not being part of the group, she sold her car and got another car. Because then she had a reason not to be part of this club. It was a social club. It was just they all happened. The main thing is you had to own this car, and then you could join this social club. But it wasn't just about cars. It was about the social aspects of being in a group. And it was shocking to me that she went this way. And I told her, I said, look, I know you think you just solved your problem, but you really didn't solve anything. This behavior is going to continue. And the next time, I'm hoping that you see that you are not okay and you make a different choice. And it did. It came up again. And it was probably the fourth time of this big type of, I'm going to do something different instead of just telling you no. And after the fourth time, she's like, ugh, I can't keep living this way. And she finally broke the habit in the moment. And it's very scary the first time we do something like that. So, for instance, I used to overcommit. And I would be having this, like PTA. I was PTA president of the school, and I was part of everything that happened at the school. And then one day, I realized that I was not supported, that I wasn't attracting anything that was good for me. And I was very sick with multiple sclerosis, which I didn't know yet. And I was just like, okay, I have to stop. And I've been pushing myself thinking I'm just going to get through the end of the year. But see, that's me tolerating my situation. I haven't done anything to fix it. And unfortunately, I didn't find a graceful way at the time. This is before I had any of my awakenings. I was struggling, and I couldn't find a healthy way to get out of it. So I just blew up, and I quit, and I pulled my kids out of school, and I told them, and the next day I went and took everything that I had in the house that was belonging to the school, and I said, I'm done. And I went back feeling sheepish, and I said, hey, I know I did this. Is there anything I need to do to, make amends for this? And they're like, no, we completely understand. So I was very lucky that I had a group of graceful people that saw me as me and didn't hold that moment against me. I mean, it could have been a tragic outcome, but instead it was a very good part of my life. Once I realized, hey, I should have said no a lot sooner. I didn't want to be PTA president. I just did it because nobody else would, and I was capable. So you see how we get ourselves in this situation. That's how my whole life was lived. Well, if nobody else can do it, I'm that. I'll be the one. I'll always be the one that if it's not getting done, I'll be the one that does it. Instead of letting other people, sooner or later, somebody's going to do something, or else there's just not going to be a president. That's not the end of the world. I mean, there's so many options other than me feeling like, well, if no one else is going to do it, I better get it done. Now, so how does this all, again, play back? So we're going into awareness and in the moment. And in each moment, we have to, again, make a decision. And we have to be focused on what it is we want and how we want to experience our life. Because the patterns will continue. They don't break on their own. And that's the moment that you're fighting for your life. You know, the life that you want to create. Anyone have anything they want to say?
Yes, I actually want to add something to that. I have also a lot of experiences of walking out of organizations, jobs, and so on. And I have the same experience that, with awareness, you'll find out that it's really not good for you. But then I want to add to that experience that when there is awareness, the awareness also includes the timing. Because, yes, it is true, sometimes you have to just throw everything down and run out of a situation. But then there are other situations where the universe wants you to have a different timing. And you have to stick it out a little bit longer for one reason or another, and maybe we don't know the reason. But if we feel that inner voice that says, it's not the time yet, then it's better to heed that counsel.
Yes.
Because at the end, when you know it's the right moment, then usually, at least in my life, I found out, wow, that was so good, and that timing was so good and so perfect, and it could not have been better, and so on and so on. So just wanted to add this time dimension to that awareness.
Yeah, and I'll back that up a little if you're okay with that. We have the timing and preparedness. I'm a real big, strong believer in timing and preparedness, that we don't have to fix everything in our life in every minute. When the timing and preparedness come together, and then we can be aware that, hey, we're ready for this, that's the opportunity. I agree with that 100%. What I want people to be aware of is where they're no longer doing what they're compelled to do and they're being driven by templates of fear. So yes, you're talking about having an awareness, being in a moment, wanting to quit, and then realizing, oh, this is just me feeling pressure or uncomfortableness, but I can feel that it's not the choice that meets my needs. Yes, you've already gotten the awareness and you're ready to work with timing and preparedness versus just being pushed by hormones and fear. So great job. I like that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I also have had the same experience where, I've wanted to leave, but it has been the wrong timing, and I've known, I listen to that voice as well, and have to wait for the timing, which I, do because I know the consequences of not doing that. But the other thing that I wanted to bring in was that sometimes that staying in situations because of hoping that the circumstances will change for the better.
Right. Right. So there is a very fine line, and when you have more of the connection in each moment of your full awareness with your third eye and your embodiment, then this line it looks large. In the beginning, it looks tiny, and it's hard to know for sure, and you may question and feel like, where do I go? What do I do? And that's why learning to slow down and meditate is an important part of that level of awareness that you guys are talking about, where, hey, am I just in my thought? Am I just hoping because I don't want the pain of losing something? Am I just hoping it's going to be better because I know that I love this person, even though I can see that they don't meet my needs? Or is there a feeling, a knowingness that something's going to change? And I have my personal opinion on this is we can never truly know. So this is why it's so important to do what we're compelled to do, and do what we're compelled to do from a place of balance. So, for instance, I get in the fight with my guy, and I say, I'm so done, and I feel it, and I want it, and I tell him, I said, in 3 months, if nothing changes, then I'm done. And you know what? We have 3 months. I set a deadline. Nothing is in stone. Everything's flexible. But I make a goal so that I then bring my awareness to, okay, I have focus and attention on this event in my life. I no longer want to experience it. Am I just hoping it's going to change, or will there be real change? And let the other person be aware so they can participate in where I'm going. A lot of these things that we've discussed already change with communication. So we can be hoping something's going to change and never tell anyone, and then we're left in the dark and having them prove to us that, see, we were right all along. But communication can open a different flow of energy. It can bring a different support. Things don't have to go as we anticipate they will go. We can actually live a life of being pleasantly surprised all the time.
I have a question. So when you continue to hope and you don't leave in a situation that's not serving you, and then something forces you out of the situation, what's that about?
Yes, I have a big one of those. That's coercion of spirit. So you're in a place where you are overriding your greater will with your free will. And we haven't talked about that at all yet, so it may be a foreign concept to some people. But the greater will is based on soul level. It's the connection to our infinite being. This is our greater will. It knows the fullness of who we are and what this experience will do for us. And it comes in and gives us direction and gives us basically advice. A lot of people may even contribute the higher self, which is part of the greater will concept and package. It knows what you need, and it can give you the best advice. But then we turn around in a moment where, okay, I know. So, for instance, after I passed the first time, when I came back, I knew my marriage was over, and I thought, oh, no, I'm not doing that. Why would I end my marriage? My belief system was you get married and you stay married forever, Catholic religion. Why would I ever not be married? Everything can be worked through. I already believe this to be true. But guess what? The universe came in and forced me out of my marriage. I won't give the details here, but anyone that wants to know privately, I'd be happy. This is not a public thing that I just share because of the uncomfortableness it can cause for the person that I divorced. But I literally got to a point where I thought, okay, I get it. I have to go. It was either leave or die. It was one of those critical moments. And I would have stayed forever. But my coercion of spirit came in and said, we're going to help you follow your greater will because your free will is overriding your health and you will not be okay. That's what I believe is happening when those moments come. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I've had that happen to me where I've known that I've been given a deadline of when to move to a place I wasn't even familiar with, and I had a little bit of resistance. I says, yeah, okay, I will do it because I know what happens if I don't. But I'd just like to extend staying here just a little bit longer, and then, but then boom, the circumstances happened, and which forced me out. Yes.
Right. It's crazy, isn't it? And I want to remind everyone that we're in on it. That we're not victims and we're not being controlled against ourselves. We are in processes, which is the only reason there's any control for us. So the universal conscious mind, pre-planning, everything is working for us.
Yeah, and I was very aware that it happened because I had extended the deadline.
That's lovely. Yeah, I used to do things like close my car door and be thinking, I need to, and then I would close the door anyway. And my intuition was like, oh, your keys are in the car, and I had already locked it, and I was like, oh, I did that. Oh. And there was other times I tend not to lock things as a habit because I don't like locking my keys in cars, so I would rather not lock something. But there was a time where I was like, oh, I need to lock the car. And I left and I didn't. I thought, oh. And then later something was taken or something, somebody did something that I didn't appreciate. So I started really paying attention to those smaller sounds. And I started learning, too, whether, is this my intuition? Is this part of me telling me, hey, you want this? Or is this me just living in fear? So I started really playing with locking and not locking things based on, okay, do I feel compelled? Did it pop into my head, or was it something that triggered me to be afraid and therefore I wanted to lock the door? So that's something you guys can play around with over the next month too, is following that push of, hey, and then looking, okay, what is it doing for me? Is it a fear or is it a truth? And you can make it fun. It doesn't have to be like a scary thing. So if no one has anything else, we're come to the end of our time, and I'll say goodbye.
Thank you.
All right, guys, you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This call has been recorded.